being read all over. So thank you so much. We're going to come back to you very soon. Khaled Fahmy is on the line with us right now, chair of the history department at the American University in Cairo. Professor Fahmy, we have just gotten this news from Al Jazeera, from Al Arabiya. Egypt TV is reporting it that President Mubarak has resigned as head of the NDP, that the whole party leadership has resigned. Can you talk about the significance of this?
This is, and I have to say that this is the first I hear about this. I just came in from Tahrir Square myself, where there was a very interesting scene of the head of the chiefs of staff of the army taking to Tahrir Square itself, and this is the first time that we see such a high-brass officer going to meet the demonstrators themselves. But to answer your question, I mean, I can talk about this if you're interested, but to answer your question, let me just say that, again, this shows how slow the regime is in responding to people's demands. People have been asking Hosni Mubarak to resign from the presidency of the ruling National Democratic Party for now 10 years, if not more. People were saying you either remain as president of the state and the republic, or the president of the NDP. You cannot maintain these two positions. So it takes him such a huge revolution, and 10 years later, he starts responding to this demand. Now, at the same time,
I just want to clarify that Reuters as well has joined with Al Jazeera, Al Arabiya, even Egypt State TV, which doesn't report on the protests, is saying this, that Hosni Mubarak and leadership have resigned the leadership of the party. But does that mean he has resigned as president of Egypt?
No. This is something else. This is unrelated. There's no constitutional link between heading the NDP and being president. You can maintain the presidency while renouncing the chairmanship of the NDP. These are not related things. At the same time, the people that they are bringing as the new leaders of the NDP are from within the NDP itself. We're not seeing new blood being injected in the NDP. The NDP is a thoroughly corrupt institution. What we saw on Wednesday with these thugs appearing on the streets with machetes and swords and whips and so on, these are NDP MPs. These are NDP. These are people who have been employed and hired and effectively bribed by NDP members of parliament. This is how corrupt this institution is. It's a very powerful institution. It is an institution that allows the state to control, especially the countryside, especially in the south. That is true, but it is far from being a political party in the official sense of the word. This is a building that allows corrupt people to have access to the presidency and the resources of the state. This is a huge patent-client network that has nothing to do with ideology, principles, rule of law, or legality. So it's a corrupt system, and changing some names at the top doesn't really change much of how this regime conducts its business.
We're talking to Professor Khaled Fahmy, chair of the history department at the American University in Cairo. Sharif Kouddous is still on the line as well. Will be joining us throughout the show. And we're getting these reports. Professor Fahmy, you have just come from Tahrir Square. Al Jazeera is reporting General Hassan al-Rawani, the head of the Army's Central Command, has just spoken to the masses in Tahrir Square, urging them to leave the square. They are chanting back at him, "We are not leaving. Mubarak is leaving. We are not leaving. He is leaving."
Yes, I was there when I actually thought it was someone else. I thought that he was the head of the chiefs of staff, but because I couldn't really see him. In either case, it was very obvious that what we were witnessing was a visit by a very high official. And I heard what he said. I didn't see him, but I heard him through the loudspeakers. And his speech fell on completely deaf ears, or actually it wasn't deaf ears. They booed him down. They shouted back. and they forced him to leave, because at one moment he said, the economy is suffering because of what you're doing. You have to go back home. They booed him and started shouting slogans against Mubarak. And then what really tipped the scene completely against him was when he started saying that they had been fooled and that they had been infiltrated by non-patriotic elements, and that they had been misguided in their protest. This was too much. These are people who defended the square with their lives. These are people who are hardline, convicted democracy activists who have been taken to the streets for 2 weeks now and who have suffered enormous casualties. Many of the people who were there today had bandages on their foreheads as a result of wounds they had received by NDP vigilantes. So for this level to come and tell them that they are misguided, this was just too much. So they started shouting, people want change of the regime, people want the downfall of the president, people want the trial of the president, and he had nothing else to do except to pack and leave, and he left.
Gamal Mubarak, he is there now in Egypt. There were all these reports that he had gone to England. And will he play any role? The reports that we are just seeing right now, that Hassan Badrawi, who became the party's new Secretary General, also took over a position held by President Mubarak's son, Gamal.
Yes, no, Gamal Mubarak is burnt. He has no future whatsoever. Gamal Mubarak is in Egypt because when Christiane Amanpour had this interview with President a couple of days ago for ABC News, she said that Gamal Mubarak was sitting in the room with his father. So this was the end of the rumors that were circulating that he had fled to London. As far as the NDP is concerned, and his position in the ruling party, that was of course a very important vehicle for him to rise. We have seen the attempt of his father and the attempt of the elite, and most probably also the attempt of his mother to groom him up to take over his father, and that attempt flew like a lead balloon. It just got nowhere. Even before the present crisis, Gamal Mubarak had failed to placate the people, had failed to reach out to them, had failed to inspire them. He had some contacts with the business community. He had no trust. The military establishment had no trust in him whatsoever, and his only vehicle was to cling to his NDP position as the head of the policies committee, as it is called. Now, losing that means that his political life is over. He has no presence in the Egyptian political establishment right now.
I wanted to go back to Sharif Abdel Kouddous. Professor Fahmy, you mentioned the interview that Christiane Amanpour did with President Mubarak. Sharif, your comment here.
Well, Amy, Hosni Mubarak in that interview claimed that, it's not him who launched the attack on the protesters, and that he doesn't know who did it, and, it was some other force. Well, Mubarak has consistently used this line that without him there would be chaos. Without him there would be disorder, and the reason to keep him in power is stability. Well, he can't have both. He either has control of the country, whereby there are no camels and horses flying into Tahrir Square to attack protesters and Molotov cocktails and guns and rocks, or he doesn't have control. So he can't have both sides of the coin, and a lot of people were very angry about that interview. And a lot of people also were angry at the fact that he didn't interview with Christiane Amanpour and didn't even address the nation. So again, I think he has lost all credibility. He's lost it he hasn't had credibility for a long time, and a lot of these promises that are made, these so-called concessions that are made, are hollow, coming from him. So again, that's why the protesters believe his ouster. If he resigns as president, then eventually the entire system that he is the head of will crumble with him.
Khaled Fahmy, I want to thank you very much for being with us, Chair of the History Department at the American University in Cairo. I'm Amy Goodman in New York. Sharif Abdel Kouddous is hosting from Cairo, Egypt, just came from Tahrir Square. We're going to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about what is happening in the leadership, but most importantly, what is happening on the ground. We're also going to speak with the Committee to Protect Journalists about the latest news of journalists, reporters, even the tech people, the cable layers who have been attacked. CPJ says over 100. One Egyptian reporter has died. This is Democracy Now! We'll be back.